I'd like to call a regular scheduled council meeting of May the 5th, 2026 to order. And just before we start, I'd like to apologize to council, administration, and anyone who may be watching. Unfortunately, I have a family emergency happening right now, and I will be leaving my personal phone on. If I have to leave, I will be turning the chair over to the acting mayor, and I hope you accept my apologies in advance. Item 1.1 on the agenda is Economic Development Week, May 4th through May 8th, 2026. Whereas economic development is a cornerstone of our strategic initiatives for fostering successful growth and prosperity within our community, and whereas Economic Development Week provides an opportunity to celebrate and recognize the pivotal role of economic development efforts in advancing our strategic goals, and whereas the dedication of economic development professionals is instrumental in implementing strategic initiatives that promote sustainable economic growth and opportunity, and therefore be it resolved that I, Mayor Dave McCrae, on behalf of the Town Council of Redwater, do hereby proclaim May 4th through the 11th, 2026 as Economic Development Week. I encourage all individuals, businesses, and organizations to join us in celebrating Economic Development Week and recognizing the contributions of economic development professionals in advancing our strategic initiatives for economic and successful growth. I'd like to turn the chair over to Acting Mayor Butcher.
All right, the proclamation is done. Any public hearings? Okay. Additions and deletions to the agenda to administration.
Madam Chair, members of council, administration has one addition under 14.1.1 in the closed session. We'll call it derelict properties, and it's under advice from officials, 29.1. So, under the act. My apologies, I drew a blank.
Any additions from council? Okay, moving on. Approval of the agenda.
I'll move we accept the agenda as adopted, as amended.
Thank you.
So did we?
Delegations.
Did we have a?
No, we didn't have a vote.
Do we have a motion to accept the additions?
Yes.
Yes, that was from Mayor Smith.
No, made.
No, I didn't.
He made it to accept the agenda as amended.
Oh, as amended.
So our normal process is to vote on the additions and then vote on the amendment.
Okay. All right, so we'll do the,
I'll move we accept the additions to the agenda.
okay. All in favor? Carried.
Now the second motion.
Bob?
Motion that we accept the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Call the vote. All in favor? It's been a while since I did this. Okay, we've got that done, and now we're to delegation. And I don't know the gentleman's name.
There's no delegation.
Do you want to address council, or are you just here for the?
We're just here to see what happens.
Okay. All right, regular council meeting, April 21st, council meeting minutes. Any errors or omissions? Council Cosby?
I'll make the motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from April 21st with the corrections that 8.1 has carried unanimous and 15 has carried unanimous as well.
Any other? I'll call the question. All in favor? April 28th, Committee of the Whole meeting. Minutes.
I'll make the motion. I'll make the motion that the minutes of the April 28th, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting be adopted as circulated.
Thank you. Anything else from council? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, so now we're on to the
There's one
April
more set.
28th, 2026 public hearing bylaw, PD-01-2026 minutes. Councilor Smith?
Thank you. I move that the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting be adopted as circulated on bylaw PD 01-2026.
Public hearing minutes.
Is that what I said?
No, you said committee of the whole.
You have it written down wrong here.
Yes, I did mention that, sorry.
Yes. Anything else from council? Not seeing anything, I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, bylaws. Is this Ms. Tingley?
Sorry. Just one thing under business arising out of the minutes and unfinished business. Just for public who might not have heard. So Monday, May 4th at noon was the cutoff for nominations for counselor for our potential by-election. There was only one nomination received as of noon. So as of noon today, the returning officer has declared Ed Cowley as the town councillor for the town of Redwater. The process from here is prior to Mr. Cowley being sworn in and attending his first meeting, what, as all of council knows, phase one of the orientation package for council has to be completed. And I will be doing that with Mr. Cowley over the next week or so, and we'll be looking forward to a quick swearing in ceremony at the May 9th council meeting. That's the process right there.
Okay, now we're in your hands, Ms. Tingley.
Thank you. All right, so I will fill out this RFD with presentation. So it's it's essentially the same presentation we saw last Tuesday with a couple of changes. So I'm not standing right in front of you guys. And perfect. So 2026 tax rate presentation. So no changes to the requisition amounts. The only difference here is I took your input from the last meeting with the percentage change year over year in terms of municipal tax. I also included the school requisition, so the unlevied portion from 2025. I spoke with Municipal Affairs to get some guidance on how we present that, how we would set the mill rates, just to make sure that we were on side so we weren't carrying forward another error into the following year. So there'll be a slight increase there in terms of school requisition for the percentage increase. Oh no. Thanks, Brenda. Sorry. So there's been no changes to the explanations here for the Alberta School Foundation Fund, but in case there's anyone new listening today that wasn't last week, I'm going to go over it again. So the School Foundation Fund, every year the province calculates based on the assessment value, the amount each municipality must contribute towards the public education system. So each taxpayer's portion of the education property tax payment is based on the assessment value of their property and the local education property tax rate. So Municipal Affairs establishes the provincial mill rate used to determine each municipality's share of the property education tax. The education property taxes are set at $2.84 per $1,000 of equalized assessment for residential farmland properties and $4.17 per $1,000 equalized assessment So if you're looking at these numbers and you're comparing them to the bylaw that you have in front of you, there will be a discrepancy. So what I learned is the assessment that they use in the statement of intent is the assessment from 2024, because it's the values that we have. So what we do is we take the res and non-res portions of the requisition, we input it based on our actual assessment rates, and then we generate our mill rate. And they have a function within their website that we can put the assessment values, or not, sorry, not the assessment values, put the requisition values in there, and then we can input like an over or an under levy, and then it can act as a as like a double check just to make sure that the mill rates that we're calculating are accurate based on the inputs that we've provided. And so I forwarded that to municipal affairs just to make sure that we were on side with the rates that you see in the property tax bylaw for the school tax. And again, it's paid in 4 installments throughout the year, so March, June, September, and December. And this is, sorry, and one really great point that Mr. Van Bulen made last week was it's not necessarily paid as much as it is taken from our bank account. We have no control over this. We are just given a notice and the money is taken from our account. As I mentioned previously, so during the preparation of the 2025 property tax bylaw, the amount set for the Alberta School Foundation Fund was based on the invoice received on March 7th, 2025, and was not based on the statement of intent received 7 days later. So this resulted, unfortunately, in an under levy of $56,962. I have the split there for residential and non-residential. So this resulted in an operating budget amendment on June 17th, 2025 to temporarily fund the under levy out of special projects reserves. So we will be levying this additional amount for 2026 to make up for the difference. Designated industrial. So the DI property uniform tax rate is determined by the total cost incurred by the assessment services branch to prepare the assessment divided by the total provincial DI property assessment. So this includes linear property. For 2026, the DI property uniform tax rate is 0.0728 per $1,000 of DI property assessment. The uniform tax rate is applied as a separate line item to each DI property owner's tax notice by each municipality. So if you're a residential homeowner, you're not going to see this amount on your tax bill. Note that there was an assessment issue relating to telecommunication property types reporting system that resulted in a reduction in assessment of $217,330. So this hasn't been factored into the DI assessment notice, but we did, I did recalculate the impact of it for information purposes, as it will result in an under levy on our end, and the under levy is a reduction in combined property taxes of $3,860 when we receive this assessment or this reassessment. With Tanmar Consulting's presentation last Tuesday, they included this slide that outlined the overall growth versus inflation of our assessment base. So I've included it here for information purposes. Something to note here that residential properties had an inflationary factor of $22.9 million, which is significant. And a much larger version of the 2026 proposed mill rates that you'll see in the bylaw. So I've included the percentage in the municipal change. So you'll see how that compares to the 4.91% taxation increase, and how that impacts different areas of the pie as we split it up over the classes, the subclasses. And then at the end, the difference in the change in the municipal rate and then the total levy change, the 10.22% on the average residential. So in terms of dollar amounts, the average residential property is going up $127 for municipal tax, and overall $288. So more than half of that is requisitions. Are there any questions on this slide?
You still have the chair.
Oh, does anybody have any questions?
Just a question, do we have an issue with any of the companies not paying their linear?
No, not at this time.
Yeah, fortunately, we're not in the position of some of the, I'll call them rural municipalities where abandonment of oil and gas facilities, whether they be wells, lines, et cetera, have led to the assessment still being put on and the taxation going through, including education, and the municipality not being able to collect the full taxes but still having to pay the education portion. Now, the province did have a program in place where municipalities could apply for that difference, I guess, on the education tax, but we haven't been in that position since I've been here anyway.
I think I can pass the chair back on to the mayor now.
Okay.
So if there's no further questions on my presentation, I can return back to my RFD. I'll leave this up just for. Alright. So, the purpose of my RFD. Each year, council must pass a taxation bylaw for the purpose of collecting money to cover expenses of operating the municipality that are not collected from other sources such as grants, utilities, and user fees. So I have 4 proposed motions listed for you today. And administration's recommendation is to pass bylaw FIN-02-2026. Wanted to give additional context on these mill rates, or as a lot of the composition has remained the same for several years. So I'm going to start off with the residential and non-residential property split. It's 63% and 37% respectively. The split has remained unchanged since 2014. There were no changes to the proposed residential and non-residential split, as well as the minimum tax, which is $300, or the allocation for vacation properties. The vacant mill rates were increased last in 2021. For reference, the vacant mill rates are a set amount above what the residential rates are. So for residential vacant rates, it's 0.4, and for non-resident, 4, and for residential, it's 12 points. I do have some context there on the annexation properties too, for information purposes, but want to skip ahead to the second page. So, so property owners that were impacted by this annexation and then becoming part of the town's tax rate for the first time in 2024, they had raised some concerns regarding the fairness of the taxation shift, and they had inquired as to whether there was some middle ground to be found in terms of taxation. So to determine what the options were available to present to council, administration reached out to municipal affairs, and it was confirmed that per section 297(1) of the MGA, residential properties could be subclassed for any reason that council deems reasonable. So that's how the subclass to include the annexed residential came to be. And for reference, the residential properties within those annexed properties are at a negative 2.5 of the residential mill rates. And so those 3 rates, the 4, the 12, the -2, have also remained the same for this taxation year, or this proposed bylaw. During the April 28th, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting, administration presented council with an overview of the requisition changes year over year, in addition to the impact of the 2026 proposed mill rates proportional to the tax rate increases. So there was some discussion regarding the different methods to communicate changes to the tax rates, the increase in the school tax requisitions, and potential updates to the second page of the combined assessment and tax notices, and the inclusion of the property tax stuffer. So administration has included a draft copy of the second page of the combined assessment and tax notices for council's review, and welcomes any input on the changes prior to printing the notices. So that's been included there. In addition to communication strategies, Mr. Van Buel had a really great idea to start with weekly communications, which we like to have on Tuesday because it could be Tax Tuesday, because how fun is that? Where we send out information via Facebook and our website, discussing just highlighting what the school tax is and the impact that has on the residents. Other items, composition of where their taxes are going to in relation to like essential services that they're receiving this year, and so on, just to further that public education piece in terms of taxation. But otherwise, that concludes my RFD, outside of looking for input as well on the second page as presented. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I'll just
Yes,
elaborate
please.
a little bit. So on the weekend, thinking about the intricacies of communicating with our public about how taxes work, the whole issues around requisitions, whether that be school or other. The idea here is, can you do it on one page? Probably not, and do it any justice. But we could do a series over the next, from the time the tax notices go out to, mid-June. So that 4 or 5 week period where we go, here's how we get taxes, this is how this piece of your tax bill works, this is how that, you know, different pieces of legislation work into how we get to, you know, the tax rate, to the point where even explaining, quite frankly, mill rates and how they work, in, you know, setting that foundation for how the pie is split amongst all the landowners, right? Because, you know, my one claim to fame on, in working with another council was, again, we had a council, had a long conversation about mill rates. And my only comment was, nobody's ever walked into a municipal office in their life and said, I want to pay my mill rate, right? They want to pay their taxes. And mill rates are, for, I would say, the vast majority of people, are something that they don't fully understand. And I'll be honest with you, I was in municipal government for probably 10 or 15 years before I had a real good comprehension about what mill rates were, how they were calculated, and how they affected individual property taxation. So I think there's a lot of things that we can do here, and it wouldn't just be one thing to educate our public on how we get to that final number and what that final number really means for the municipality and for those requisitioning bodies.
Councillor Olson?
Okay. I'll make a motion that we move that the bylaw Fin-02-2026 being the bylaw authorizing the rate taxation levied against assessable properties within the town of Redwater be given first reading.
Discussion by council. Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
Just comments about what you were saying about the education part of it. One of the things I did see recently, and it's out of the city of Edmonton, was that they actually gave the assessment per 100,000, and that's your mill rate basically. And that really, I think, give a lot of people, well, why did mine go up $300 instead of the $50 of my neighbor's? Well, how much was his property assessed at compared to my assessment, right? And I think that might be one of those key elements that will, it dawned on me all of a sudden, I looked at that, now I can actually calculate my house like that rather than wondering.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Smith.
I think you're absolutely right about making it too busy to have on one page. Perhaps we could have 2 pages when it goes out initially, because it's that initial shock that gets it.
And that's fair.
Go ahead, Edwin.
So we do include a pamphlet as well that details all the budget changes for this year, and we like to highlight like very specific projects that are coming up that the tax dollars are being, you know, that contribute to that. But we find that oftentimes it just becomes colorful garbage based on the questions that we receive. So we're just trying to capture like as many different mediums. So we do include the tax stuff, or we have the budget presentations that are online, and then just like one more step would be just like the weekly Facebook up until, and then the website as well.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, there are, when you, and I think Councillor Spicer said it, like, when you go to other municipalities, there's, quite frankly, you know, there's thousands of really good ideas on how you do it. I don't think there's any magic to this other than you gotta continually do it, and you've gotta do it in different mediums. And that's kind of where this idea comes from. It's not just when you open it up, we're gonna hit you, pardon the pun, but we're gonna put that education in front of you week after week after week leading up to when you have to come in or when you go online and make your payment or whatever. One of the comments, and I don't hear them all, but I do hear a lot of them from where I sit in the office. The one I think that maybe stings the most, if I can say that, is I don't get anything for my tax dollar, right? And one of the things in that second flyer we want to highlight is here's the projects that we're doing. This is what's actually going to get accomplished. So, you know, when somebody says, you know, what do I get? I don't see anything happening. And Mr. Davison last year had a particularly vocal residents, and I don't see anything happening for my, for my tax dollar. And Mr. Davison said, well, what you don't see is what's underground. Our big project in the last year was, spending $400,000 or $500,000 on a water line. Yeah, you don't see it because, quite frankly, it's underground. And so another way of putting that out there is, here's our projects. This is what's included in our budget. I see this series being a series of one-pagers. So, it's, Councillor Smith, it's probably more than even a page and a half or 2 pages. It's gonna end up being 3, 4, 5 pages. And the idea here is, when somebody comes in, we'll be able to print that off and we'll be able to give it to you if you didn't get it online. Here's a take home for you when you pay your taxes.
Might be an assistance to council too, if that continuous page information thing was foldable, so that we could have 2 or 3 with us, and if we're approached, we can say, hey, did you get this, and did you take a look at it? And that way we can help administration get that message out, that it's not just us. There's a whole pile of things that go into the mix. And I know I was quite vocal last meeting about balloons and confetti and what have you when you open the envelope, but I think we have to be that dynamic to get people to understand it. I mean, I'm just gonna say, Councillor Cosby has been in the municipal world for more than a year. You've been in it for umpteen number of years. I look at council, Councillor Olson, Butcher, and Smith have several decades combined of specific council service to the communities, and they still get the same questions that they got 20 years ago. And somebody isn't learning that message, and it either has to be the teacher or it has to be the student, or a combination thereof. So try whatever we can.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I agree with you, Mr. Mayor, and it pains me to say this, but I think a lot of this is on the teacher. Honestly, I don't think we've done a great job as municipalities educating our public about how this works. It is, quite frankly, when you get into the details and the minutia of it, it is pretty complex. It's hard to explain to somebody how we do our budgets, how the mill rates work, et cetera, in one little pamphlet. People like Allegra, people like me, we go to school for many years to figure this out, and then we get here, and then we get our real education. and it's hard to put that into, a 5-minute blurb as a video or a 3 or a 4-page pamphlet, and really get your point across. But again, that's on us.
Any further on the motion? First reading of the bylaw? Not seeing any, I'll call that question. All in favor? And that's carried. Councillor Cosby?
I'll move that the bylaw Fin -02 2026 be given second reading.
Thank you. Call that question. All in favor? Councillor Spicer, I've ignored you twice.
The council unanimously agrees to give bylaw Fins to 2026 third and final reading at this meeting.
Discussion by council. Call that question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Councillor Smith?
Move that bylaw Fin 02 2026, being a bylaw authorizing the rates of taxation levied against accessible properties within the town of Redwater, be given third and final reading.
Thank you. Council, final discussions. I just want to say my 2 cents worth about educating the public on how we're spending the money, not how we get the money to spend. is I still believe that we should be advertising each and every project that we put on the street. If we've got a section of sidewalk, there should be an A-frame. If we got a chunk of pavement that we're putting down or a water line that we're fixing, there should be an A board there that says, this project's funded by reserves or taxation or whatever the combination might be to the tune of X number of dollars, so people understand. And it's not cheap. I mean, we've seen that with highways, we've seen it with waterways, so it's just not cheap.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with our plans for this year.
Further discussion, final reading, call that question, all in favor? And that carries. 10.2, our land use bylaw, PD 012026. Mr. Van Buell, I believe this is in your bailiwick. Thank you, Ms. Tingley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I just gotta find it.
Page 99.
So again, this is a bylaw to amend and consolidate the land use bylaw. As I've mentioned a number of times through this process, I think the town of Redwater, one of our claims to fame, if I could, is our bylaw, our land use bylaw is truly a living document that is kind of ever changing and hopefully for the better. So the background on this is PD 02-2025, the town of Redwater land use bylaw was given third reading on December 16th, 2025. And that consolidated everything into what we see right now. After that, as per our normal process, we deal with the list of things that have come to administration's attention, whether that be through MPC, through the public, or quite frankly, just our own administrative review of what's working and what's not within the bylaw. So administration gave first reading to bylaw PD 01-2026 on April 7th, 2026, and a public hearing was held on April 28th, 2026, with 3 individuals in attendance to speak in favor of the bylaw. I will say the comments from the public at the public hearing, quite frankly, were very positive. And I think it echoes what the comments that we got echoed what administration and council is looking for, and that is trying to make sure that our development is as red tape free as it can be, understanding that it will never be totally red tape free, but we want to eliminate as much of it as we possibly can. And we also want to make sure that our community is development friendly. And the easiest way to do that is through our land use bylaw, because it is what regulates development in the community. Mr. Mayor, I don't know if council wants me to go through all of the amendments. We've gone through them at first reading. We've gone through them at the public hearing. And I will say right now that there are no changes contemplated in the second and third reading. I think that might be a first in a while. And I don't know if that's good luck or good fortune or something else, but certainly the public has given us, again, a good idea of what they want to see with these last set of amendments. And I think the biggest pieces of these are just making that bylaw easier to read for the public, easier to understand and follow. And again, taking that sober second, third, fourth look, whatever you want to call it, at our zoning districts and making sure that they make sense and that they follow good planning. And again, they take down barriers to development and business development in our community. And I think, again, the public comments echoed that. I think we hit a home run on this one, on that side. So the proposed motions, there's 2. Move that council give second reading to land use bylaw PD 01-2026 as presented, and And then the second motion is move that council give third and final reading to land use bylaw PD 01, 2026. And I'd answer any questions if council may have.
Councillor Spicer?
I move that council give second reading to land use bylaw PD 01, 2026 as presented.
Thank you. Discussion? Call that question. All in favor? That's carried. Councillor Butcher?
I'd like to move that council give third and final reading to land use bylaw BD-01-2026.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. As Mr. Van Beal said, it is a living document. Just an MPC meeting we had this afternoon, we got the first amendment for the next one. We came across something, so.
Anything else? I was just going to say that in addition to that, and you're totally right, the living document, what have you, is the overall support that we had at the public hearing. You never know what's coming in a public hearing, pro or against, and we had some very good, well thought out presentations. So I think we're on the right track, and as Councillor Olson points out, we'll start a new cycle right away. So any further discussion? Call that question. All in favor? And that's carried. I just wanted to confirm something again. My apologies for being out of the room. Did you get an opportunity in section 9 to make comment? Thank you. Section 11, new business. Any reports from council? Just across the board? No? Okay. Correspondence and information. We have two pieces with respect to notification of, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much.
Have a nice evening. Thank you.
We're being notified as adjacent landowners with respect to a general commercial improvement development permit. We're also seeing an adjacent landowner notification to us for a residential low-density major home business application. And then we're also seeing an invitation from CN for their luncheon at FCM. Usually a pretty good opportunity to touch base with most of the executives of CN. Our representative, our local representative will be there, and usually takes extra time just to talk with us to find out how things are going and that sort of thing. So if anybody is contemplating on going and is able to attend for the luncheon, please do your own RSVPs. There's no cost associated to it, but you're more than welcome to be there and see the presentation by CN, because normally they preface everything with an updated safety talk on new things that they're doing, how they're presenting, level crossings, cross arms, all those kind of things that come into play on a daily basis. So that's the invitation from CN. And I'd look for a motion to accept general correspondence. Councillor Butcher. Thank you.
Your worship.
Discussion by council or questions? Anything through to administration? Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
On that luncheon, it just says that it's limited to 2 spaces from each
Yeah,
community, so.
it is, but if you want to go, RSVP.
Okay. Just clarifying that.
I'll call you.
Here's what I can say. When you go into the room, there are multiple tables with more than 2 representatives from.
Okay.
And usually at least multiple tables with open chairs.
Yes.
All right. Motion to move into closed session. Counselor Butcher, okay. Thank you. Call that question, all in favor? And that's carried. And we just need right, Counselor Spicer,
Motion to come out of closed session?
thank you. Call that question. All in favor? That's carried. Counselor Cosby?
Administration to proceed with the legal action as directed in closed session.
Anything further with regards to that? Not seeing anything, I'll call that question. All in favor? Thank you. Oh, Counselor Olson?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?